Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Sox Machine Live. I am Josh Nelson alongside Jim Margulis, the managing editor of SoxMachine.com, as we bring you a new episode on Cinco de Mayo 2022, March 5th. And Jim, let's start there, man. How did you celebrate Cinco de Mayo today?
By managing contractors, we have a backyard job going on. So basically, I've been housebound the entire week, getting blocked in by trucks. So, yeah, every day's been largely the same. So actually, we got some overnight rain coming. So actually, get a little bit of freedom on Friday. So that'll be nice.
Nice. We used to talk about home remodeling when the White Sox were terrible.
Oh yeah, I'd have a lot to talk about now, but unfortunately, they're good.
I know.
Or good
I know.
enough, I should say. 11, 13, not quite good actively, but should be
Yeah,
good.
a
We're not there
lot
yet.
better.
Yeah,
A
we're not
lot better
we're
than
not that desperate.
than the home remodeling talks that we had. As a matter of fact, I have my first home contractor experience coming this weekend in this very room. So I'm so excited to enjoy what you have been enjoying, Jim.
Yes.
But at least, did you get some tacos today?
I did not.
Okay.
Pasta, actually. I have it all wrong.
You do. You really do. My tacos were delicious. And for everybody that's watching the live stream, I hope you had an opportunity to get some tacos, maybe some margaritas to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. That has nothing to do with the Mexico's Independence Day. That is in September. So I'm still not quite sure why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo as hard as we do. But happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. And the vibes are good for the Chicago White Sox. They have won 3 straight games. They swept at Wrigley Field, winning both games against the Chicago Cubs. They won game 1, 3-1 in a very cold, misty evening. They won game 2, 4-3 after they were down 3-1 after the second inning, as Lucas Giolito gave up a couple home runs. Good for the White Sox offense to chip away, get the lead. And we'll talk about the White Sox bullpen in a moment and how big they were helping deliver that victory and the sweep. And the White Sox get to keep the Crosstown Cup because they own the tiebreaker for winning the Cup last year. So there you go, Jim. The White Sox, the Crosstown Cup champions in 2022. And I want to bring this tweet up because I mentioned this during the Athletic. They were doing their very best, and tip of the cap to John Greenberg and James Fegan and trying to hype up this series between the White Sox and Cubs. And in their series prediction, Fegan wrote, Kopech and Giolito have been great, so the White Sox should sweep this. And we could talk about how everything is great and they're back on track while they score like 7 runs for the series. Jim, James called it. The White Sox only scored 7 runs in the series. So how did they sweep the Cubs?
Basically, that kind of outline. And also, with the weather the way it was, basically, it was not, it's like Arctic conditions, but like on the coastline. So it's above freezing, but there's a cold, damp wind, rain blowing about. And in those conditions, like, it's a case where, you're tired about complaining about the weather and saying that, the White Sox should be able to score more than 4 runs with some regularity, no matter how cold it is. But watching the conditions on TV, seeing how miserable everybody was, it was just more of a matter of get a win however you can. In this case, the White Sox, they have more talent than the Cubs. I don't think we're breaking any new ground there, especially the pitching matchups. Kopech was good enough. I think he could have been better. He would have said he would have been better. Just the inefficiency, shortened his start a little bit, but he was fine. Basically, you can write off every individual performance. And as long as the talent adds up to a win, that's good enough for these conditions. It should be warming up next week to be normal, to be not howling cold winds blowing in or blowing to one specific corner. Like Tim Anderson was able to poke an opposite field, right field, homer and get a little bit of carry on it because the wind happened to be channeling out that way and managing to crack the code for one brief at bat. But hopefully next week we're not talking about this anymore. And if the White Sox score fewer than 4 runs, 7 consecutive games, then we can really light into them. But for now, I think it's right to be forgiving.
Yeah, the weather in Chicago looks like it's going to be 75 degrees on Monday. It's got a chance on Tuesday and Wednesday in those games against Cleveland to reach 90 degrees in Chicago, as it will get very humid next week. And hopefully, I mean, we've been talking about it for weeks now. Once the weather warms up, Jim, the offense will get better. Once that happens, well, I think we're going to see it next week. It's just against two teams in Cleveland and the New York Yankees that are very good, at least in recent history, shutting down the White Sox offense unless they're playing in Iowa. In the White Sox Yankees case
with the special baseballs meant for TV, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the unsung heroes that's now getting some attention after these two games at Wrigley. And let's talk about Matt Foster, high leverage reliever.
Yes.
Jim, was I asleep at the wheel? When did this happen?
I don't know. I think it's a matter of, Aaron Bummer being out and the White Sox looking for some creative solutions, or I shouldn't say out, but off. And White Sox looking for creative solutions around a lack of real left-handed depth. And it's funny, I'm not sure if this happens to you, but when it comes to 8 and 9 man bullpens, if I had to like recite the entire list in 15 seconds, I would get stuck one man short. Like it would take me, I would eventually come up with a name, but like I would hit a wall for 10 seconds. And this year, Kyle Crick was the guy. Just whenever I saw him, warming up in the bullpen or coming in, like, oh yeah, he's here. No matter how many times he pitched, it was just, he never did. I mean, that was partially his fault. He never did anything well enough during his brief stay to, make me remember him. He was always low leverage or not somebody you really got, fired up to see or thought like, hey, great move or hey, bad move. It was just a matter of like, well, game's out of hand. Here's Kyle Crick. So he was that guy. Last year, it was Matt Foster. And I think even Tony La Russa for long stretches of time forgot that he had Matt Foster in the bullpen. So it is surprising. Like there was no, like with Jose Ruiz, you could see that like gradual, just kind of like the boiling frog test. Like, let's turn it up 1 degree, see if he responds well. Let's turn it up 1 degree. Let's see if he responds well. And then like he's had a little bit of a rough patch here. So a little bit of Jose Ruiz apprehension sinks in. But in this case, like Foster did not get that kind of gradual leverage test. Like before he was a mop up guy. And sometimes you would be trusted with like a 4-run lead or something like that. But mostly unimportant situations where they needed 2 innings, he was the guy. So to see him go from nothing to, hey, good outing. Now here's Aaron Bummer's typical role. Now here's Aaron Bummer creating trouble for you in a 1-run game in Wrigley Field in 8th inning. Go get him. Like that's surprising. It's welcome. And I think, it's great that he's been able to figure out a different wrinkle. I think he's been fastball change for like a lot of his ascension. Then he ran out of that trick and the slider wasn't good. So it seems like he's come back with a sharpened slider and enough to make the scouting reports have to be updated. So now the changeup looks a little bit novel. Now it looks like a little bit, he's no longer fastball changeup. So when you see the changeup, it's not the one pitch they were looking for. So it seems like that's kind of what he's going on right now. If he keeps this up, I'll probably look at it a little bit deeper. Like, we talked about Jose Ruiz being maybe that guy, and I wanted to see what scouting reports look like when they accounted for the changeup, and he's hit a little bit of a rough patch. Not bad, but also not the force that he was early in the first few weeks of the season. So I'm waiting for Matt Foster a little bit too to see if now these pitching important situations that the bench coach or whoever is providing the intel report for hitters on the bench, they'd say, oh, this is Matt Foster's music. It's like just Kendall Graveman and Aaron Bummer and Liam Hendricks. Like, no, now Foster's coming in for these situations. We need to be apprised as to what he's doing. I guess next week will be a good test with the Guardians and the Yankees. Guardians have seen him a lot. Yankees haven't, but Yankees will be fully accounting for the updated scouting report. Should be interesting if he gets any kind of situation, but specifically like, one of those high leverage situations that he hadn't seen in quite some time.
So we got this question from our YouTube chat. So for those that are listening to the podcast feed, if you get an opportunity, we are live streaming on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We're able to address comments and questions in the YouTube chat. So if you get an opportunity to watch the live stream, you can participate. Sean posted this comment, Jim, that Kendall Graveman should have been pitching that 2nd inning instead of Aaron Bummer starting the 8th inning, especially after throwing 6 pitches in that previous inning. That is a in-game situation. We haven't really talked through an in-game situation in a while. Did you like the fact that after just that few pitches that La Russa did not extend Graveman another inning?
Yeah, it seems like he's backed off of Kendall Graveman a little bit after pushing him hard early. So I don't know if it's more of a managing thing. I also don't, specific to that game, I don't know if it was a conditions thing. Like he benched Luis Robert for that game because Robert had played a number of consecutive games and being cold and wet just did not want to push anybody with potentially problematic legs into having to run hard or stop hard on that turf and perhaps with cold weather. So I'm not sure. It could be a case where, managers typically, when they're called like players managers, and even La Russa is not like a typical players manager, like they're players' best friend. But when they say like he's good at managing a clubhouse or good at managing veterans, what have you, he generally makes the expectations clear before the game. So he says like, we're only going to use you for one today, or you're getting the entire game off, or you're sitting, but we might use you in a late game situation. Like I think, when he says that, we're saving Liam Hendricks for a save situation. I think, people said, roll with their eyes and said, we don't, the extra innings, there is no save situation in extra innings. I think it's more of a matter of like Hendricks' back is hurting him. So in this case, if there isn't a save situation, we're not even going to bother getting him loose. We just don't want him to be on guard all game and have him, getting loose for a 3-inning stretch when we're only using him for one specific situation. So I think, in this case, with the weather being the way it was and being maybe the least playable conditions the White Sox have had in quite some time, perhaps he just, had the bullpen on order saying, we're only doing you 1 inning. We're not going to have you sit down and get back up and stay warm in these conditions. We're just going to, once you're done, you're done. And that might have been a case here where even if Graveman had an inning that was clean and under normal 60-degree circumstances where there is no, just driving rain and wind, perhaps he goes back out there. But maybe pitchers were under orders for these conditions to not have to get warmed up again once they get cold, because they might be getting really cold in that dugout.
So I want to go back to Matt Foster here, and I'm going to just read out some things that I found from Baseball Savant that I thought were pretty interesting as far as Foster from 2021 to 2022. So his 4-seam fastball, he threw that pitch 63.5% of the time, by far and away the most used pitch by Matt Foster. In 2022, that has dropped considerably, just down to 46.6%. His slider usage in 2021 was 10.6%. That is increased in 2022 to 25.1%. So he's throwing that pitch a quarter of the time. And we're seeing fewer changeups from Foster, 22.5% in 2021, down to 13.6%. Here's what's fascinating to me, Jim. Looking at the slider, opposing hitters are 4 for 9 against the slider. They've only struck out once against Matt Foster in the slider. The whiff rate is 26.9%. The changeup, the whiff rate is 0%. And opposing hitters are 2 for 4 when they put the ball in play off of Matt Foster changeup. His fastball, opposing hitters are hitting .042. They are 1 for 24 against his fastball. They have struck out 9 times on that pitch, and they have a 29.8% whiff rate. So is this a philosophy in pitching of less is more? That if you throw your fastball at a lower percentage than last year and you increase the percentage of sliders that you're throwing at hitters, the increase in sliders is going to make your fastball better?
I think so. Like when you look at his usage in previous years, like first pitches, his fastball usage was over 60% both in 2020 and 2021. Now it's below 40%.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
pretty. That is pretty predictable. When you're above 60%, you can go in the batter's box and I'm getting a fastball.
Yeah. So I think in this case, like he's just pitching backwards now. So his fastball is his best pitch. If he doesn't have to show it till later, that's to his advantage. So that's a case where, if they can anticipate the slider or the changeup, they're his weaker pitches. So hitters are happy to see him if they know they're coming. But if he's reversing the scouting report right now and saying like he usually sets up everybody at the fastball and then goes to the change. In this case, now he's going to the slider early or the changeup early just to grab a strike and get me over. And then all of a sudden anything goes and the fastball is a little bit more novel. The other thing I thought with Foster was Watching Reynaldo Lopez pitch and being used in a variety of situations and thinking like, well, if like say the Wilson Contreras drive to center that Luis Robert flagged down in the warning track, in previous years, his inability to get grounders and being fly ball prone and having to kind of cross his fingers on some well struck balls that they'd say in the park. And this year, this could be a good year to be a fly ball pitcher. And Foster has been that guy in the past. Like his ground ball rate's been below 30%. He uses that high fastball. Right now, in the small sample he's got, his ground ball rate's actually 50%. He's actually keeping the ball on the ground. That could be another byproduct of the different pitch mix going on. But when it comes to the fastball, like if they do figure out the fastball, perhaps this situation where he reverts back to, fly balls being like 50% of the time and line drives being 30%, like that could be okay in this situation. Maybe not so much when the weather gets 90% in the wind and 90 degrees and humidity's at 60% and the wind's blowing out. But in cases where like the ball still isn't traveling, perhaps Foster isn't penalized for being the guy he was before. And even when hitters realize like, first pitch fastballs aren't a thing, later in the count fastballs are a thing, perhaps he won't be punished to the extent that he was last year.
Yeah, because when he got it was Ian Happ, that big strikeout in the 8th inning in game 2. I think Happ was looking changeup because Foster threw a couple changeups before up in the zone, very much like Lucas Giolito likes to throw his changeups, especially against lefties. And Happ was fouling them off and Foster froze him. It was a perfect fastball. It was a fantastic pitch right there in the lower part of the strike zone. And it's funny, Cubs hitters, they watched a lot of strike 3 in this series. It's like, it's a whole team thing, Jim. They either don't trust the lower part of the strike zone or they do not have an idea of what the lower part of the strike zone was. The White Sox pitchers really took advantage against Cubs hitters in that lower half. So hopefully this continues for Matt Foster. I think in the very near future, these type of situations are going to go to Joe Kelly. But until Kelly arrives in Chicago and starts pitching out of the White Sox bullpen, I guess we're going to see Matt Foster in these situations. And right now, he's delivering. So
good for him.
Yes, good for you, Matt Foster, bouncing back from 2021. He was excellent. He was one of the dependable guys in 2020, if you remember that. He and Cody Hoyer. If it wasn't for those two, man, I don't know if the White Sox make it to the postseason with that bullpen and all the injuries and out of shape that they were in. Also, Evan Marshall. We had a comment from one of our good friends, Beef Loaf, that he misses Evan Marshall throwing 80% off speed stuff. I also miss watching Evan Marshall pitch, and we'll see if he's still with the White Sox. See if he's still with the White Sox in 2023. All right, so that's good news is Matt Foster. Let's talk about some bad news or something that is intriguing me, and that's back to the White Sox offense, and that is AJ Pollock. I'm an AJ Pollock stan. I was ecstatic that the White Sox acquired AJ Pollock. I like his game. I thought he was a great fit. And I really loved it, Jim, when he went 4 for 7 in the first 2 games of the season for the Chicago White Sox. Since the opening weekend, AJ Pollock is 4 for 35. He's got 9 strikeouts to 1 walk. And I think there's a lot. Maybe there's not a lot. I think there's one big pressing issue for AJ Pollock right now. And I know James Fegan of The Athletic has tweeted about this and has mentioned it. That timing just seems to be off for AJ Pollock. Do you agree with that, Jim? Do you think it's just a timing issue right now? Or is there anything else that you're seeing from Pollock that we should be a little bit more concerned about his struggles at the plate?
No, that's what I think it is. And I was surprised when he went to the injured list. Well, I wasn't surprised. I'm not surprised that AJ Pollock went to the injured list. I'm surprised that he came back without a rehab stint. You would think after just, 1.5 games and then being out for 11 or 12 days that you would think, just that's not enough time to get a groove. It's not like Luis Robert, who was in the lineup for, a week or so and then missed 5-6 days, but was still active and around, and then comes back and tests and passes an immediate test. Pollock, he looks like his timing's off. And I'm watching, Yohan Makata go through his rehab stint right now in Charlotte, and he's had some good games. He's had some bad games, or just unimpressive games. No real clunkers, but just,
Mhm.
You'd expect a guy like him to dominate Charlotte, but he's still getting his timing back. And I thought Pollock would get the same thing just because he had an interrupted spring training with the trade. Everybody had a short spring training, and just 2 games in, you get hurt. Why not spend a few days down in, with the Knights to get some, get some at bats in low pressure situations, especially when he said like he was like 80 to 85%. Like he was really specific about like how not quite 100% he was, and he'd figure he'd pick it up as he goes along. So I don't quite, it doesn't surprise me that his timing's off. I'm just surprised the way they handled it, given that he could very well get hurt again. You'd think they'd be more cautious, but I think right now we're just seeing a live rehab stint against, really good pitching, major league pitching. And it's taken him a while to just barrel it up or get the barrel where he wants to in the zone. Like his hardest contact is mostly into the ground, getting jammed a lot. He's pulling like, hanging pitches. He's pulling into the left field foul territory seats. And when he gets a fastball, he's behind. So I think he's just right now trying to figure out how to get the barrel in the right place.
Yeah, I agree with the timing. And I'm glad you mentioned the fastballs because you know how much I love when hitters hit ground balls. Love it.
Yep.
But going to Baseball Savant, looking at AJ Pollock's season so far, and I'm bringing up a graph, the swing and miss rate by season for AJ Pollock for his entire career. So for those that are listening to the podcast feed, I'll talk through the graph here. And as far as swings and miss, so it doesn't matter if it's in the strike zone or not. If AJ Pollock swings at a fastball that is registered in the StatCast data, so far in 2022, AJ Pollock is swinging and missing on 32.6% of the fastballs being thrown at him. So almost 1 out of 3 fastballs you throw at AJ Pollock, he's whiffing on. That is a 15.6% increase from last year. And in the next graph, I have the chase rate. So these are pitches out of the strike zone that a hitter is swinging at, and they consider that chase percentage for the hitter. And in the graph, it is big jumps in both off-speed pitches and fastballs. Right now, AJ Pollock is chasing fastballs out of the strike zone at a 37.5% clip. That's a 10% increase from last year. The off-speed pitches, changeups, he is chasing that pitch 50% of the time out of the strike zone, which is a 15% increase from last year. I bring these points up, Jim, because I agree on the timing, and specifically back to the bases loaded situation late in game 2 with 1 out on a 2-0 pitch. Pollock had a fastball that he could do some damage on, that he could drive at least to the outfield and get a sacrifice fly and make it a 5-3 game for the White Sox. Instead, he fouled that pitch off. And I think that's a good example of the timing situation. But there are other plate appearances where I'm wondering if he's also pressing a little bit, trying to impress his new team that he can deliver in these big situations, which is odd to me because you just came from the Los Angeles Dodgers and it looked like you played relaxed and no pressure at all. And that is a team that is definitely World Series or bust. So it's a little bit surprising to me that he may be pressing here. But when you look at the swing and miss rate and you look at even the chase rate, I wonder if there's just 2 factors here. One, his timing's off. And 2, he's just trying to do too much at the plate. I don't know how you help with point number 2, Jim, other than just hopefully that the timing comes back so he doesn't have to chase so much, because the first fastball that he sees in the strike zone, he's not whiffing on, he's driving it.
Yeah, just like inject him with a downer or something like that to get him to calm down. But when it comes to like I'm looking at a StatCast page, and like you look at his run value, and last year he smoked fastballs and was really good on like sinkers. Fastballs generally covered, like a little bit of weakness on changeups, and other years like fastball performance has been pretty stable throughout his career, and just different whether it's the quality of pitchers throwing certain pitches can tie him up, or the secondary stuff kind of comes and goes. But this year, the run value is negative on basically every pitch he's seen more than 10 times. So I think it's just, he's not really, I don't think it's a bat speed thing, because normally you see that materialize with like, he's better at sliders or he's better at changeups. Like he's compensating with other pitches and fastballs is where they're getting him. I think it's just more of a matter of, just bad pitch selection. And then when he has good pitch selection, he's just either trying to cover 3 pitches at once or it seems like he's just trying to get a hit, or maybe like the one hit that unlocks everything for him, and every pitch looks great at it, and it resembles me playing MLB The Show. Like my walk rate is pitiful playing Road to the Show, just because I can't tell low changeups from low fastballs. Like it's if they threw me like low changeups the entire game, like I'd probably strike out 60% of the time. But in this case, like kind of resembles the same thing. Like I'll get it back if I swing it, chase this pitch out of the zone, because eventually they'll feed me a mistake. But right now, those mistakes are not. He's not capitalizing on those either.
So we mentioned AJ Pollock. We did get this comment in the YouTube channel from Benjamin. And Benjamin wrote to us, Jim, speaking of disappointments, I hope that Josh Harrison may have turned something around in the Angels series. He looked lost at the plate again. What does it take for Yolbert Sanchez to get a call up?
Yeah, like I said, with the conditions at Wrigley Field, that's a case where just a win's a win, and if people look bad, so be it. And they came away with the sweep. So like I kind of suspend independent judgment on players for 2 games in those conditions. I think this week will be a good week and a stable week when it comes to just playable conditions. Like Jose Abreu, this should be a big week for him in terms of like where he's at as a hitter and what he's doing with his batted ball angles, and whether he's just in a ground ball rut or really out of it. Same thing like Harrison, Larry Garcia, other guys who've been struggling. Gavin Sheets is another one I think will get a nice little bit of run here with Andrew Vaughn out to kind of understand how his timing is and whether he has to settle for those singles through the shift, or whether he can actually start turning on pitches and getting some reward for his fly balls. So this like stretch with Harrison looking rough and batting, above and below 100, I think can't go on for too much longer. But I think, the having a nice weekend series against the Angels is more important than what happened in these 2 games at Wrigley. And now, with this off day and now coming back to better weather, I think this should be a case where now you can start looking at guys a little bit more closely and expecting a little bit more. And you're muted.
The White Sox are 11-13, and they could be getting help coming in the near future. Yohan Moncada and Joe Kelly could be joining the White Sox as early as next week. But the White Sox now head to Boston as they have a 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox. And this Red Sox team, I know the White Sox have struggled to start the season, and it's good that we are now watching them put some wins together. They have won 3 straight games. The Red Sox seem to be in disarray, and they had a very tough series at home against the Angels. Unlike the White Sox, the Red Sox could not take care of business against Los Angeles. And when you look at the White Sox and, for example, the White Sox offense, they have a 6% walk rate. That's the worst in Major League Baseball. Boston's got the 2nd worst walk rate in baseball.
Which is really surprising.
It is very surprising because if you look at their lineup, I don't think they have as many injuries as the White Sox do right now. They're just underperforming. The bullpen is a mess. The starting pitching's been pretty good for them, and the White Sox will see 2 of their better starting pitchers this weekend. It's going to be a very interesting series, and we're going to preview that series now as we take a look at the pitching probables for the Chicago White Sox. Friday, May 6th, this is a 6:10 p.m. Central Time game. This is the Apple TV game. So you'll need to be the only way you can watch this game is through Apple TV. So if you have a smart TV or you already have an Apple TV, if you watch Ted Lasso, sign in with that account and watch the White Sox Red Sox game.
If you watch Ted Lasso and forgot to cancel afterwards.
Exactly. Vince Velasquez will be making that start for the White Sox on Saturday, May 7th. This is a 3:10 p.m. Central Time game. Technically, these are to be announced if you go to the pitching probable as far as website. However, we are thinking it's going to be Dallas Keuchel for the White Sox. That's a 3:10 p.m. Central Time start. That game is back on NBC Sports Chicago. And grab some brunch on Sunday, on Mother's Day, because the White Sox and Red Sox are playing at 10:35 in the morning on Sunday. And this is going to be on the Peacock app. So another app that you will need to have on your smart TV or on your phone or tablet if you are watching while having brunch with the mothers in your life. And again, that's going to be at 10:35 a.m. Central Time. Jason Benetti will be broadcasting the games on Sundays on the Peacock app. So he'll be broadcasting the White Sox games. Steve Stone and old friend Kevin Youkilis will be calling the game on Sunday as Uke gets to share his time with the White Sox playing at Fenway and, of course, all those years with the Boston Red Sox. For the Boston Red Sox, their probable pitchers are looking like Nathan Eovaldi on Friday, Nick Pivetta on Saturday, and Michael Wacha on Sunday. Eovaldi's been very good for the Boston Red Sox to start the season. He is 1-0 with a 2.51 ERA with 32 strikeouts. Michael Wacha has been very good for the Boston Red Sox. He's 3-0 with a 1.38 ERA and 19 strikeouts. Nick Pivetta is on my fantasy baseball team, so I can tell you firsthand how terrible he has been this season. He is 0-4 with an ERA above 7. So what a wonderful pitching matchup we've got on Saturday. If you love high-scoring games, we may see it with Dallas Keuchel and Nick Pivetta on the mound facing one another. And that's where I want to start as far as with this series preview, because there's going to be a lot of attention on that Saturday start for Dallas Keuchel. We talked about it at length on Monday Sox Machine podcast, Jim, on how much longer does Dallas Keuchel have?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to see from Keuchel in this start against Boston to give you confidence, or maybe looking at it from a White Sox front office, lens, to give you confidence that, you know what, he needs another start against the New York Yankees next week?
Probably some combination of 5 innings and 60% strikes would be the easiest way to simplify it. Like, I'm not expecting like shut down baseball from Dallas Keuchel to save his job. Like Vince Velasquez did that. I don't think Keuchel's going to do that, or I wouldn't expect it. But that's not really his job, his role in this rotation. Right now, I would consider his job as crossing days off a calendar. So feeling like 5 innings didn't completely demoralize the team, didn't ruin the bullpen. Hopefully the offense provides some support to give him a chance, and where they're still in it or have the lead when he leaves the game. And that's really all that I'm expecting, or all that I think anybody should expect. The problem is, like, he's dug those early holes. He's had those long innings. He hasn't had a Keuchel-like start where he puts the ball in play and he lets hitters beat him. I think the game against Cleveland, where he gave up 10 runs in inning plus and he had 4 errors behind him, that might have, I'm not sure if that's shell shock or something like that, to where all of a sudden I have to do this all myself, and he's the pitcher least equipped to do that. But if he's going to look like himself, or if he can look like himself and still get outs, I imagine be some combination of 5 innings and 60% strikes, something like that. Like, he's been hovering around 50% the last 2 times, and that's just not a way. They're not competitive. Like the way he's missing, well off the plate, well below the plate, well inside to righties on those cutters, like they're easy takes. And I think that's a situation where that's not his style. That's not his game. He can't really pitch outside his game. The one thing I should mention, you mentioned that it's Sunday's game is on Peacock. This one's also on NBC, just the NBC network, like actual NBC 5 in Chicago. Like, it's not going to be. It's kind of like the way Apple TV was free for the first game if you signed up. Mm-hmm. But then it won't be. And I think it's kind of the same thing. This is Rob Manfred's America this weekend. 3 games on 3 different platforms, all of which you have to pay separate charges for. Although maybe if you have Xfinity, you get Peacock for free. I'm not sure, but either way, like, just punishing cord cutters, I think is what's going on here. But Keuchel, sum it up. I think if he does that, they're not going to cut him just because there is nobody behind Johnny Cueto. Like, the pitching options are really thin, and Cueto himself might not be a solution. So I think they want to keep all hands on deck as much as possible.
For the White Sox offense, I mentioned the 3 righties that they're going to see, and Eovaldi and Wacha have been very good. I think I'm in the mindset, and I know that we're hyping up next week, and I really hope the White Sox score some runs, because with the weather change, we're running out of excuses for them to not be performing at the level that they should be performing at. But Eovaldi and Wacha have been pitching very well. Is this going to be another low scoring weekend for the White Sox offense, Jim?
I mean, you'd say yes, just because the way they've hit right-handed pitching, and yeah, just has been shutting the White Sox down from that side, and it's not going to be a particularly balmy weekend relative to Chicago. Will be. I think it's going to be in the low 50s in Boston, but not yeah, like 8 degrees where the ball is going to be flying out. So their work's going to be cut out for them, but I think just it's going to be similar to, I think, the Cubs series, just without the extreme weather, but in the sense that you have two offenses who are both uh, mirror images a little bit. Like there's an article in the Athletic, and it's talking about by the numbers how ugly the Red Sox offense has been. And I was reading it, just saying like the first sentence of each number applies to the White Sox, basically. Like number of times since April 15th, the Red Sox have scored more than 4 runs per game. Where they rank in the bottom third in offense. They cost themselves a run with poor base running, and they can't afford to do that. They have 7 players. The OPS is below 600. They're going on, and just the only thing, basically about 8 numbers in, the Red Sox have a low expected WOBA. So they're a case where, unlike the White Sox, who've been hitting the ball hard, and when they do, they're not getting rewarded. The Red Sox do not have that going for them. So it's like the one case where there is a split to where, the White Sox don't have all these problems. So it could be a case where, they're looking at the White Sox pitching matches and saying like, oh, I don't know about Cease. Like we have no chance. Like we're looking at Eovaldi, right. They're looking at Cease. Could be a case where they say like, oh, if they don't hit Keuchel, they're in trouble. And could be a case where if Keuchel has a good outing against them, that makes them even more confused about how they're going to turn this thing around. So they're kind of, I think, looking at each other, Spider-Man meme style, saying like, oh, this is, we're exposing each other with how pitiful our offenses are. So this is a good case for AJ Pollock to find his timing. This is also like, it'd be a nice case if Yohan Moncada came back, because I think, his left-handed bat against a couple tough righties would be useful. So actually, let me check the Charlotte Knights lineup just to see. Did you check it?
I did not, but I thought the expectation from Tony La Russa was that Moncada would be joining the team in Chicago against Cleveland.
It's possible, but sometimes, plans change if he feels good. So let me just see.
I figured,
not in the lineup.
Cleveland.
Not in the lineup tonight, but I think, maybe if Moncada were coming back, Danny Mendick wouldn't have come back. So I didn't think, Moncada would be back immediately, but should he feel good, this would be a nice case to maybe get him a jump in the situation, just because these righties are tough. But
just because they called up Danny Mendick doesn't mean that Danny jumped on a plane from Charlotte and is in Boston right now. He could still be sitting in limbo. Like the White Sox are going to say, hey, we're calling you up, quote unquote. However, we don't need you in Boston. Please give your ticket to Yohan Moncada.
I don't think the TSA allows that.
Oh man, I don't even know how Yohan Moncada could look like Danny Mendick. They very different styles between them two. But you mentioned, as far as the different streams over the weekend, this is going to be my first Apple TV experience watching the White Sox. The previous one was a home game for the White Sox, so I was in the stands. So help me, Jim. How should I be prepared for the Friday night Apple TV broadcast? Because I've been told it's very different than a standard broadcast.
Well, from what I saw, that was a game where I had to watch it. I had to backfill it because I was late joining the game. And because when you have a kid and they have set bath times and such, like I'm used to watching a game on my phone and then watching a game on a laptop and then switching to the TV later as as the kid moves to various rooms. But with Apple TV, could not watch it on my phone. So like that was a case where, okay, like I'm just, screw you, Major League Baseball. I'm not giving in. I'm not going out of my way to accommodate you. You should be accommodating me. So I wait until the 6th inning and join the game, and then watch the first 6 innings speed style. But it's cleaner look. That's one thing I like, is the graphics are less intensive, less invasive on the screen. So it's very much puts the action forward visually. But I think when it comes to audio, when it comes to the soundtrack, it's different because it is kind of more casual, more of a hangout style. And I saw like a lot of fans being annoyed by it because, it's similar to Sunday Night Baseball a little bit, in which it's kind of like a talk show over a game. And if you want to hear, a national broadcast really rave about each and every person who's coming up at the time they're coming up, or, if it's a rookie who's just making his debut, and you want ESPN to get your, rest of the country interested in your guys, they might fail you at innings at a time, depending on what they're talking about. And I think Apple TV is kind of going for the same thing, in which it's just a weekly thing. They have a lot of different people in the mix, a lot of different voices coming in and out. So it can get sidetracked. And I think, some fans did not take kindly to that. But I think it's worth, when it comes to national broadcast, and I think, these different streaming platforms, like I don't mind them taking chances, because if you're Apple TV, if you're Peacock, and you really don't have a legacy brand like ESPN does with Sunday Night Baseball, where people expect certain things, it's worth taking shots. I don't mind, like the All-Star game, when they mic players up on the field and they have different goofy things going on, and some players do better than others in terms of making their inning interesting. Like I appreciate those shots, because I think some broadcasts can get stale. So it's kind of like, it reminds me of the XFL a little bit, the original one, and how, it was short-lived, didn't really do much in terms of making an impact football-wise, but it did change a lot of ways Fox and ESPN and such broadcast their games with different cameras and different, just visual, cues to give fans different looks. So I'm all for these random streaming services trying stuff out. I just hope that by next year, I would hope that they pare it down a little bit and only have one streaming partner to make it exclusive, because I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, and you're shaking your head no, but my hope is that, like, maybe these streaming platforms don't see enough of a, incentive to keep this going, and one partner settles it.
We're going to start our own streaming platform at Sox Machine Gym, and we're going to buy 3 games during the season, and we're going to charge $50 per person to watch those 3 games.
Well, we're kind of doing that. We can tout.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
We're not charging $50 per person. We're not doing pay-per-view.
But why not?
We should. Exactly. Why not? Buy the rights of 3 games, random Thursday 1:00 games, and make it pay-per-view and help our cash flow. We did get this comment from one of our fans, Mailman Jack, in the YouTube stream. He mentioned anything is better than A-Rod. Jim, have you watched that ESPN Sunday night broadcast, the Alex Rodriguez show?
I have not.
Neither have I. So there you go. That's a review of the show that I refuse to watch.
Because I haven't, it's a case where I haven't seen a lot of criticism for it. Like, I think it would be something where you'd see baseball Twitter hate watching it a little bit for, kind of cheap retweets for good jokes, but I haven't really seen much about it either way. So I don't know if it's just, unremarkable, or if it's actually good enough to where people don't want to make fun of it, but also it's A-Rod, so they don't want to talk it up. So it's probably worth, given that I haven't seen a lot to inform my opinion, like while I don't have any kind of preconceived notions, I may as well, maybe this Sunday drop in on it and see what it's actually doing.
Sure. It's Cubs Dodgers for Sunday Night Baseball, this upcoming broadcast. So we get to watch the Dodgers crush the Chicago Cubs on Sunday Night Baseball. And we can watch Alex Rodriguez with it's with Michael Kay, right? From New York.
Yeah, it's a case where, Michael Kay doesn't have a lot of national appeal either, to where, I listened to him a lot, when I lived in New York, and just watched a lot of Yankees games by osmosis. And I don't mind Michael Kay, but he's also, he's a New York guy. Like, he's a New York voice. He's, associated with the Yankees. Like, there's nothing really like Jason Benetti, as he gets these national games, whether it's NBC, whether it's the Nerdcast games and ESPN2, like, he's got a national voice. Like, he's not a Chicago voice. He's a national voice that, I think, objective baseball fans, third-party baseball fans consider Chicago fans lucky to have. Mm-hmm. Michael Kay is not, like, if Jason Benetti hosted that kind of format, I could see it maybe working, having more appeal. But Michael Kay and A-Rod does not have that kind of thing where fans are going to come in saying, what's this all about? They're going to come in saying, like, oh, this is going to suck.
Yeah, I mean, MLB Network experimented with a format like this last year, in which friend of the show, Steven Nelson, hosted it with 3 ex-major leaguers. And they were just sitting in a chair like if you were sitting in someone's living room, and they were just chatting about the game. I thought that was pretty interesting as far as a format. It lets ex-players be more relaxed in that setting and be a little bit more open about what they are watching and the game of baseball, especially in how it's being played today or certain circumstances. Because when you do a national broadcast and you get the lights in your face and you're suit and tied, millions watching you, you could feel really pressed to make sure you're saying the right thing. I enjoy the hell out of the Manning cast, but I think to your point, Jim, no one's saying anything ill about the A-Rod show. I don't think anyone's watching the A-Rod show right now. So maybe that's our homework assignment over the weekend. Everyone take a moment, watch a couple innings of the Alex Rodriguez Sunday Night Baseball show, and we'll report back on how we feel about it, because the White Sox and New York Yankees will be playing on Sunday Night Baseball very soon. And maybe it'll be a deciding factor for you on how you are enjoying that particular Sunday night broadcast. And that is a great segue for an announcement that we have. So if you listen to the White Sox Wake Up Call in the podcast feed, or you visited soxmachine.com in the morning and you read the announcement, we have agreed to a new contract extension with Blue Wire Podcasts, which is great for us. It opens up more doors financially for us and helps supports us. So for all those that watch Sox Machine live on YouTube, for all those that listen to the podcast, either daily or weekly, thank you guys so much for your continued support. It goes a long, long way. And through Blue Wire, we got introduced to a new company called Playback. And what Playback is this new platform in which they're going to take a stream and they're going to overlay it with content creators being the commentators for that stream. So if you watch anything on Twitch, or if you have kids that watch videos on Twitch, it's usually watching people play video games. For example, when Lucas Giolito is playing MLB The Show, you're watching the game feed of Lucas Giolito, but Lucas Giolito is still on your screen so you can see his live reactions on what's happening in the game. Playback is very similar. So they're going to provide the White Sox stream, and we at Sox Machine, Jim and I, are going to be hosting watch parties through Playback. So we're going to be there. We're going to be talking through the game. There's a comment section, very much just like streaming on YouTube during Sox Machine Live, that everybody will be able to jump in, and we could have our own little virtual watch party. As I bring up an example on the YouTube live stream of what the stream looks like, and it is it's HD, so you don't have to worry about as far as any stream quality. And our upcoming schedule, as we partner with our friends from the 108, Terezi and Beef Loaf, very interesting characters. I do love their baseball insight, but they make things really fun. And they can make things a little chaotic as well, which is great when you're doing a 3-hour plus broadcast. So they're going to be joining us in our upcoming schedule for our first playbacks. Is going to be Tuesday, May 10th at 7 p.m. That is the Cleveland Guardians at the White Sox. May 17th, this is game 2 of the doubleheader in Kansas City, as the White Sox will be visiting the Royals. And Sunday Night Baseball, May 22nd, between the White Sox and Yankees. So if you do not like the national broadcast, if you do not like watching Alex Rodriguez, you could watch us be hosting the virtual watch party on Playback instead and engaging with us during the game. We're really excited about this new platform and trying it out, and we're very grateful that our friends from the 108 will be joining us. So, Jim, next week, man, next Tuesday, we're hosting our first virtual watch party. What is something that we should have in the rundown? Because again, 3 hours is a long time.
Well, I'm curious, like, as we partner with this and have 4 people watching from 4 different rooms, like, I'm curious if there's going to be any kind of delay, or if anybody's going to have like a lead time of like 5 seconds is going to look really smart. Because maybe a couple of us are behind. Like, that could be fascinating. Like, I'm seeing if anybody has leaks. I'm used to, like, on MLB TV, like having the 30-second delay. And there was when the White Sox are coming back 6-0 against the Angels, and I didn't know how the inning was going to turn out. I had to turn off Twitter. I had to turn my phone upside down because, like, if this is going to happen, I want to see it happen. And I learned Gavin Sheets grounded out before it happened and be like, it sucked. I liked having the 20 seconds of anticipation thinking it could happen.
Yeah.
So as we get used to this technology, I'm going to be curious, like what kind of delay, if there is any delay, and if one of us is going to look super smart and not tell anybody.
Well, we'll see. Again, this is new technology for us, so there might be some bumps in the road as we get used to it, but we hope everybody does sign up. You do have to sign up at getplayback.com. There, when you do sign up and you make an account, you need to verify as far as your TV cable subscription, or if you have a streaming package, to ensure that you do have a package to watch the White Sox games on NBC Sports Chicago or even on MLB TV. Or, of course, if you do have ESPN, once you do that, you'll be able to come into our virtual room. We have a bunch of people already signed up to be part of the playback room. So, again, we'll be promoting this all over the weekend. And you can sign up at getplayback.com, and we'll provide the direct link to our room all weekend. So you can save that in your favorites and, of course, promote it on Tuesday night as far as our first watch party as the White Sox host the Cleveland Guardians. But that will do it for this episode of Sox Machine Live. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at Sox Machine. And for those that do watch the YouTube stream, if you just came across this stream for the first time, or for those that are listening to the podcast feed, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. If you don't get an opportunity to watch the live stream, no worries. The audio from the live streams are uploaded into the podcast feed, which you can subscribe to the Sox Machine podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're new to Sox Machine or have been a longtime lurker of Sox Machine, think about helping support us at patreon.com. Patreon.com/Sox Machine, where we have several different tiers of support, and our Patreon supporters get exclusive content. They get ad-free versions of the podcast and website. And when we have new Sox Machine swag, they're the first ones to get it. We have monthly plans starting at $2 a month, and you can save with an annual subscription. Again, the URL is patreon.com/Sox Machine. Sox Machine Live is a production of SoxMachine.com, your home for all things Chicago White Sox baseball, and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Alongside Jim Margulis, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for watching and listening.